Hello and welcome to another episode of Global Politics. Ladies and gentlemen, there has been a debate. Who made Ruto president? I mean, everybody who voted for Ruto played a part in making him president. However, the question is, who played the most integral part in making Ruto president, especially when it comes to leaders or regions? And the debate is whether Mount Kenya made Ruto president or whether it was Bungoma through Moses Wetangula. In this video, I want us to look into that and see what role, if any, Wetangula played in Ruto's election as president. If that is something you're interested in, stay tuned. And if you're watching this channel for the first time, subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, let's move into the subject of the day. Like I said, there is a raging debate. It has been there since 2022. There are those of the opinion that Ruto is president courtesy of Mount Kenya. Others insist that the winning vote, the vote that made Ruto get the 50 plus 1, was from Western, particularly Bungoma, and courtesy of none other than the current Speaker of the National Assembly, the Honorable Moses Wetangula. Before we come to the conclusion of who played the biggest role, one important thing needed to happen for President Ruto to win the election against a combined force of Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, because it was the first time in the history of this country that the incumbent was endorsing the opposition against his own deputy. And so this really messed the arithmetics, because I have told you here, times without number, that in Kenya to win the presidency, you need the support of at least 2 of the 3 influential communities. The influential communities, for those of you who are new to this channel, I have insisted these are the Kikuyus, the Kalenjins, and the Luos. You need at least 2 of them to support your coalition to become president. And I've always given you evidence that that is what has always happened. And so the combination that got Uhuru elected in 2013 was Kalenjin and Kikuyu. It did wonders in 2017, and this is what William Ruto was relying on to win the 2022 election. Remember, in 2013, Uhuru won by a difference of 800,000 votes. In 2017, he won with a difference of 1.4 million votes. And so chances of Ruto winning by a wider margin was there. However, something unexpected happened. Mount Kenya turnout was the lowest. It appears that whereas Mount Kenya people were so opposed to Raila Odinga that they would rather vote for Ruto, they were not so excited to go and vote. In 2017, the turnout in Mount Kenya was 87% when they were voting for Uhuru Kenyatta. Guess what the turnout in 2022 was? About 65%. So that was 20% lower. And this is something that really worked against President Ruto. So whereas it is true that Ruto got most of his votes from Mount Kenya, that vote would have not made him win. I want to repeat that. Whereas the largest chunk of the votes that Ruto got came from Mount Kenya, that would have not made him win, because William Ruto won the 2022 election with 200,000 votes. And these 200,000 votes, ladies and gentlemen, came from Bungoma. Now, why am I saying that even though Mount Kenya played a very integral role, even though Mount Kenya gave the most votes, that vote would have been neutralized? Here's what happened. You see, the turnout in Mount Kenya was low. I've told you 65%. However, that 65% did not vote for Ruto alone. Raila Odinga got over 800,000 votes from Mount Kenya. So, if it was an intact Mount Kenya, the way it has always voted when they are voting for one of their own, William Ruto would have won without Bungoma. Because in 2017, remember, the Bukusus were supporting Raila Odinga, yet Uhuru Kenyatta still got over 1 million votes more because the turnout in Mount Kenya was high. Now the turnout was low, but not just that, the votes were also divided. Because if Ruto got 3 million and Raila got over 800,000, which we can now round off to 1 million, it means that this really ate into Ruto's support base. Because if Ruto was depending on the two communities, the Kalenjin and the Kikuyus that got Uhuru into power in 2013 and 2017, he was expecting that this 800,000, he would have gotten even a half of it. Even if he got a half of the 800,000 votes, he would still have won without the Bungoma. And let's say in an ideal situation where this 1 million vote or 800,000 votes that went to Raila went to Ruto, he would have still won without Bungoma. But that is not what happened. That's why I tell you there were serious challenges because Mount Kenya, while they supported William Ruto, the turnout was too low. It was low. They are the people who gave Ruto majority of the votes. Remember, William Ruto won with about 7.2 million votes. And of those 7.2 million votes, 3 million votes came from the 10 counties of Mount Kenya. Those 3 million votes are significant and they played a role, but they would have been neutralized with whatever Raila got if Bungoma did not vote for Ruto. And that is why I say, technically, Wetangula made Ruto president. The interesting part is that Uhuru, Raila, and others did not see this coming. They didn't at all. When Wetangula was unceremoniously removed as the leader of minority in the Senate by ODM and replaced by, I think, James Orengo, he made a promise. He said, the divorce will be loud, it will be messy, and with casualties. And they didn't believe Moses Wetangula. They ignored him. He was a nobody. And remember, in politics, the worst mistake you can make is to ignore your opponent. In hindsight, I can say that we underestimated Uhuru's influence in Mount Kenya because the belief was that Mount Kenya always votes united, the way Luo Nyanza votes. And so if they had rejected Uhuru Kenyatta, they had rejected him in unison. We underestimated Uhuru Kenyatta's influence because if he could get Raila Odinga close to 1 million votes, that, ladies and gentlemen, is very influential, in my opinion, considering it was from a region that had rejected Raila Odinga. So you have a region that rejected Raila Odinga and said they were not going to vote for Raila Odinga. Yet, through Uhuru, that Raila Odinga still got close to 1 million votes. It was very influential, and most of us underestimated that. We had assumed there is nothing Uhuru was going to bring on the table, that with the Kikuyus rebellion, he was not going to get something. And that is perhaps the mistake that Rigathi and his people are doing. The belief is that Ruto is going to get nothing from Mount Kenya now that people hate him. I don't think so. We might have a case where Ruto gets even 1 million votes through the likes of Kindiki, or even if Uhuru Kenyatta continues to support him. But I digress. Like I was saying, underestimating your opponent is a fatal political mistake. And Azimio underestimated the value of Moses Wetangula because they ignored that this man was controlling Bungoma. And Bungoma is a serious vote basket. So without Bungoma, it would be difficult for Ruto to get the 200,000 that made him the winner. And that vote, ladies and gentlemen, say whatever you want, came courtesy of one Moses Wetangula. They underestimated him. They ignored him. I remember when finally Mudavadi joined Wetangula, as they were campaigning, they would be branded very funny names and painted as, so long as Wameshiba, they're okay. What they didn't know was that Wetangula was going to play an important role in making Ruto the president. And to know just how valuable Wetangula was, he was given the third most important post in the Republic. The Speaker of the National Assembly, ladies and gentlemen, is the third in command. If the president is not there, and this deputy is not there, then the person who can take over the leadership of this country is none other than the Speaker of the National Assembly. And that is yours truly, Moses Wetangula. He played a big role. There were even times you would hear people saying that the broad-based government plans to remove Moses Wetangula. That was non-negotiable for William Ruto. There is no way William Ruto was going to go to any discussion where Moses Wetangula was going to be removed from his position. No. He knows the value of Moses Wetangula. And Moses Wetangula, unlike other politicians who promise a lot, he rarely promises, but he delivers. Ask Raila Odinga when they were in NASA. Ask him when they were in court, because Wetangula has supported Raila Odinga both in 2013 and in 2017. And he was very integral, getting the Bukusu vote. He usually delivers the Bukusu vote. And it is not some small votes, some serious votes. You can check the records. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think, to be fair, let us agree that while Mount Kenya gave the most votes, the deciding vote came from Bukusuland, courtesy of Moses Wetangula. I know there are some very funny people here who might misinterpret this to mean that somehow we are dismissing the role the Mount Kenya people played in making Ruto president. I'm just telling you that the deciding vote, even in the US, a president has his base. There is where he will get the most electoral college votes. If they are Democrats, they would get a lot of votes from California and New York. If they are Republican, they will get serious votes from Ohio. They will get votes from Texas, serious electoral votes. But those, while integral, are not the deciding votes. The deciding votes always come from swing states. And so somebody will tell you that winning Pennsylvania made Trump president. Okay. It doesn't mean that the votes from Texas did not matter, because they were the majority anyway. But who decided? And that's what I'm trying to say here. I'm not dismissing the importance and the significance of the votes of Mount Kenya people, because without them, this 200,000 from Wetangula would be meaningless. So they played a big role, but the deciding vote came from Bukusuland and from Wetangula. And in that case, it is not far-fetched to say that Wetangula technically made Ruto president. That's what I wanted to say, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what your opinion on this is. Are you agreeing with me that Wetangula made Ruto president, or you are of the opinion that no, whatever he brought on the table was not useful after all? Let me hear what your opinion is in the comment section. Let us have a discussion. If you found value in the video, like it and share it with friends. And of course, if you've not subscribed yet, just take a second, subscribe. It is free. It helps the channel grow. And of course, anytime we produce videos of this nature, you will be notified. Otherwise, if you want to know who between President Ruto and Mount Kenya betrayed the other, watch this video.